Please welcome the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak put himself in front of the first ever GB News People's Forum, and his message was don't risk his plan to improve the UK's prospects by voting Labour at the general election expected within the next 12 months.
At the end of it, either Keir Starmer or I am going to be Prime Minister, right? And a vote for anyone who is not a Conservative candidate is simply a vote to put Keir Starmer into number 10. So
And the PM used Labour's crisis at the Rochdale by-election to illustrate why he thought voting for Labour was such a risk.
Keir Starmer has been running around for the last year trying to tell everybody, OK, the Labour Party's changed, right? Well, look what just happened in Rochdale. Until, as apparently literally 5 minutes before I walked on tonight, under enormous media pressure, has decided to change his mind. That's not principled.
He was on less sure ground over the NHS, a topic which was mentioned several times during the hour-long grilling. And he had to admit that NHS waiting times would only fall if doctors stopped striking.
But look, we haven't made enough progress, in spite of all those things I've told you about, which is a lot. The NHS is doing more than it's ever done before. We haven't made enough of a dent in the waiting list. Now, we've practically eliminated the number of people waiting the longest, 2 years, 1.5 years. But overall, the waiting list has largely risen over the past year. The good news is, though, we saw that it started to fall because we didn't have strikes for a period at the end of last year. And that has been a real challenge, and I'll just be honest with you about that. But in November, first month where we had absolutely no strikes in the NHS, do you know what? The waiting list fell by 100,000.
The conversation got heated when an audience member asked why the government hadn't done more to address those injured by the COVID vaccine.
I want you to look into my eyes, Rishi Sunak, and I want you to look at the pain, the trauma and the regret I have in my eyes. We have been left with no help at all. When are you going to start to do the right thing? The vaccine damage payment scheme is not fit for purpose.
The Prime Minister was somewhat surprised that none of his audience members had asked a question about the cost of living crisis.
I am genuinely surprised we've not had any questions about the economy, the cost of living, right? So that I'm just genuinely puzzled by that.
All right, here we go.
So that would be the first time I've ever done one of these where that hasn't come up. I can't imagine all of you are really happy about the tax you're paying and don't want to complain.
Well,
has no one got an economy, cost of living, tax question? Right, here we go.
Okay.
Now we got some people, right.
And if nothing else, the variety of the questions offered to the Prime Minister at the People's Forum shall be a challenging year for him, as he seeks to convince voters that after 14 years in power, the Tories are worth a fifth term in office.